I'm Ed Heil, and you're listening to Crushing Club Marketing. Today's guest is Mike Donnelly, co-founder of Seventh Sense, an email optimization software platform. Increasing email open rates can help you drive new members to your club and also engage your existing members in your club activities. And yet, how scientific is your approach to email communication? Driving engagement and growing your club's revenue through strategic, automated email communication isn't a pipe dream, and we'll get into it right now. Thanks so much for joining us today. Boy, it should be a fun discussion today about email, if you can imagine a fun discussion about email. But the truth is, email has become such a staple in our communications. And, if you think about it, we don't talk on the phone as much as we used to. We don't meet in person quite as much as we used to because communication has changed so much. And email has a lot to do with that. So if you think about, what could we talk about with email? And there are a lot of different directions we can go on this topic, but we're going to focus on a couple of areas very specifically as it relates to email. The first is understanding content. So we're going to talk a little bit about content, what makes good content, what is interesting, and why is that so important in your email communications. If you remember a couple weeks ago, we were talking to Jackie Singleton from the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts, and she was saying that they went from about a 30 to 40% open rate with their emails to close to 70% with their open rates by altering their content. Now, the other thing that Jackie did that was really interesting is they started to personalize and segment the lists of the people that they were sending emails to, which is a huge part of it. So the second part of what we're going to talk about today is, if you think of it as segmentation, which sounds like a big marketing buzz type word, but it's really understanding the people you're sending your emails to and why it's important to know their preferences in receiving those emails and how that impacts the open rates of those emails. So we all have different habits. We all have different ways that we like to receive emails. We all have different ways we like to send emails for sure as well. And when we open them, why we open them. And yet most of us in the club marketing world are used to sending out emails that go out at a certain time to the entire contact database list. It's because it's easy to schedule that way. You get on a program where you're getting that content out and it's reliable, but it's not always the most dynamic and it may not be read that much. So today we're joined by Mike Donnelly, the co-founder of the software company Seventh Sense, based just outside of Washington, D.C. And at a high level, Seventh Sense helps you increase your open rates by optimizing send times. And Mike leads the vision of the platform as well as growing the business as the CEO. He's a recognized sales leader in the tech space, which means he knows how to leverage technology to drive revenue. And Mike holds a Bachelor of Science degree, in geology with a specialty in environmental and engineering geosciences from Radford University. Exactly the type of degree you'd expect someone like Mike to have running a company like Seventh Sense. So Mike, thanks for being with us, and please fill us in a little bit. How did this all come about from a degree in geology?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Ed, and for the listeners, appreciate you making some time. From a geology perspective, I'll tell you a quick story. So I actually started my career as a software engineer for a biotech company that was responsible for mapping the human genome. And I was sitting across the table having lunch with Craig Venner, who is really was the godfather of sequencing the first human genome. And he looked across the table from me and he said, "So what did you major in, Mike?" And I said, "Geology." And he just kind of looked perplexed and he said, "Mike, what the hell do biology and geology have in common?" And at that point, I kind of fell back in my seat, not really knowing what to respond with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to admit, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, but either way, you found yourself to Seventh Sense, and I tried to give a high level explanation of Seventh Sense. Can you take us a little bit deeper into Seventh Sense? Maybe how you even got to this, and maybe that'll help people better understand the state of email through that description as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about kind of just us as human beings, in today's, digitally connected world, we're all just receiving gobs of email. In fact, you look at a lot of decision makers within corporations and you think about yourself, we'll get more email this week than we did last week. And last week we got more email than the week before. So there's really just this kind of deluge of email communication that's just ever increasing. And it's not only just email communication, it's social notifications, it's phone calls, although phone calls are dropping off more and more, but we're still getting them. And so we're just being, there's a lot of noise trying to grab our attention. And as an enterprise sales rep, that became a huge problem for me when I was trying to do, outreach to prospects, even existing customers. And so what I would do is I would pay attention to, hey, if I want to reach Scott or Sarah, I knew intuitively that Scott would respond to me, or I paid attention to his patterns between 9 and 11 in the morning. And Sarah, she would respond to me between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. And as I continue to formulate this idea, what I started to recognize is, wow, just like people are creatures of habit where they get out of bed at certain times a day, they commute at certain times a day, they have standing meetings at certain times a day, are also more apt to engage or respond to communication at certain times of day. But my schedule is different than yours, Ed, which is different than Sarah's, which is different than Scott's.
Right.
And as we use these marketing automation platforms, as we send emails, et cetera, we're generating all of this, what's called engagement data. It's when is Sarah opening emails? When is she clicking on emails? When is Scott opening on emails? When is he clicking on emails? But we're doing nothing with it. And so what 7sense does is we go off and we mine that data out of the marketing automation platforms, and then we build a profile on each individual to try and determine when do I have the highest probability of Sarah engaging. And we also train our system to try and target these people on their desktops versus mobile phones. When do I have the highest probability of reaching Scott by time of day, day of week? And also, just to add a little bit more context, the reason why we target people when they're on their desktop, as much as everybody says make your content mobile friendly, etc., I don't disagree with that. But mobile phones are great for reading, but they're actually horrible for taking action. So if you're trying to get a club member to register for an event, set up a tea time, something along those lines, they're not going to do that on their mobile phone. They're going to do that on their desktop, because typing with your thumbs becomes just, we all get tired of it. And so at a very high level, we not only expose that data on the individual, but then rather than blasting an email to 500 of your club members about the most recent event or an upcoming event, we empower you to personalize in an automated way the send time to each individual through your existing marketing automation system.
Right. So just to touch on that a little bit. So as a club member, I will go into my app and I will, it's interesting you say that that people don't take action as much on their mobile device as they do on their desktop. Because thinking about my own behaviors, I will, if someone says, hey, do you want to play golf on Saturday? I'll say, sure. And I'll jump into the app to look at tee times. And if I am really I've just got to make the tea time right then, I'll try to do it. But a lot of times I'll just look at it to see if it's available, and I will wait till later to book it on my desktop. Why is that? I mean, do you know? I mean, it's really interesting. It's almost like you're just trying to learn and, like you said, educate yourself, but then take action in another way.
Yeah. So, and we all kind of take that same approach. Now, if you do have an app that's like a one-click app, and this is where I liken it to, if Amazon sends me a marketing email and I like something there, I have the Amazon app on my phone, and it's literally one click to make a purchase. I don't have to do anything more. Amazon knows exactly who I am. I don't have to type. I don't have to fill out any other information. Whereas if anybody else sends me a marketing email about purchasing X, Y, or Z, if I like what I see, I just don't delete it because I'm an inbox zero person. And then when I get back to my desktop, I'll actually make the purchase.
Right.
Because it's just much more efficient and much faster to take those actions on your desktop. And it's really the way that we've trained our brains to interact with content.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and it seems like it's going to be more of a hassle. You might make a mistake and things like that. That's really interesting. So, boy, you've got a lot of information, a lot of knowledge to share, and as I said off the top, I think that we could go in a million different directions on this. And but let's start with content. Let's start with the discussion. We'll start with kind of away from you, and then move more towards the technology, if that's good with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing you've done a lot of research on emails and emailing and understanding that, you can have the greatest technology in the world that says, like Seventh Sense, that's going to tell you exactly when Ed is opening his emails. But if you don't have anything really interesting to offer, people or if you've conditioned them to believe that you don't have anything to offer because you've spammed them, they're going to delete your email without even looking at it, right?
Absolutely. So 100% agree that no matter what time you send it, if you've just spammed your audience to death, it's just going to become irrelevant. It doesn't matter when you send it. And going a step further, you can sometimes get lost in the noise, what I call fatigue or brand fatigue. You can get brand fatigued if you're not sending the right content to the right individual. And then what happens is the individual, they will tune your brand out and they just will stop interacting with your emails because you've constantly sent them content that even though this email might have been interesting to them, they're not even going to interact with it because the last 10 emails that you've sent them just did not apply to them whatsoever.
Yeah. How do you think that the importance of content in email has changed through the years? I mean, we were talking before about the fact that you go back 10 years ago or, maybe 15, remember when you got your first email and it was like, oh my gosh, I just got an email, and it was the coolest thing, and it was this novelty for it, and it's slowly become just the bane of our existence. But and part of that is obviously that we're back then it was really novel, but people that are trying to adapt or adopt the practices of sending certain types of emails. So hey, we've been sending the same content for the last 10 years. But they're going, geez, I don't understand why people aren't reading it, or the open rates haven't changed at all. How do you feel like the content and the importance of content has changed over the years? And what are the trends in that, do you think?
Yeah, so it comes back to what I mentioned before. Previously, if you look back even 3 years ago, the average business professional was receiving about 50 to 60 emails a day. Now, 3 years later, the average business professional receives around 120 to 125 emails a day. So then you look at, executives, and it's far more. I have plenty of executive friends that deal with daily inbox emails of over 1,000 a day.
Oh my God.
And so we are spending so much time in our inboxes that psychologically we're actually having to train our brains in how to deal with it. But each individual is training their brain the way that they want to train their brain, or the way that they learn how to deal with it, because your email is no longer a place where it's, again, like you said, it's a novel place. It's actually a very stressful place. When I get an email, no matter who it's from, I'm like, oh gosh, another email. Even if it's somebody saying, hey, Mike, we're ready to move forward. It's like, okay, that's one more thing that I've got to put on my plate.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it should be a very exciting piece. It's like, gosh, well, I've already got 50 other emails that I'm trying to interact with at this point. And therefore content, if as long as you're sending relevant content, you can really keep people interacted or engaged with it. But most marketers are not respecting the audience of, are not respecting what their audience is telling them purely based on their engagement. And the reason why is, if you think about sending sending emails is a commodity. Like, hey, I've got a subscriber base of 1,000 people. yeah, I've got a marketing automation system that I'm paying for. It doesn't cost me anything to send them email.
Mm-hmm.
But where the cost comes in is on the opposite end of that. The cost of the attention of the recipient.
Mm.
And where things have, back to your original question, where things have changed from 10 years ago, we didn't have the level of data on each individual that we have today. Because marketing automation systems have gotten far smarter in the way and the types of data that they're capturing on each individual. They also didn't have the capability of doing all the types of segmentation that you can now do with a marketing automation platform.
Right. The intelligence has changed so much, and with that, and I'm just thinking about the content, thinking about club marketers in what you're saying, and the lack of respect in many ways for the receiver, the recipient of that email. And it is interesting when you talk to people and they say, hey, I've got a list and I'm just sending this information to them and I'm hoping they're going to open this. And if, as club marketers, and let's just, for the purpose of this point in the discussion, let's just say for membership people, for people who are responsible for maintaining the happiness of their members, member engagement, which is such an important thing for so many clubs. If you were able to really sit there and say, hey, what are they interested in? How can I help my members by giving them more valuable information? And thinking of it in terms of what am I offering them that's really going to help them, it can shape your content and what goes into those emails in a completely different way. I mean, you said something really interesting where email is a stressful place. And that's exactly it for so many people. I'm probably, what you were saying resonated with me in that I'll look at my email and I'll think, it's like people are putting to-dos on a to-do list for you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got 75 emails I got to go through. And, 40 of them might be junk, but it's like you're going through them, you're clicking through, and you know that all they're doing is just trying to throw their information in front of you. And the ones that you're more inclined to look at are the ones where you know that they are actually trying to help you. They're actually trying to do something for you rather than saying, do this for me. We want you to act right now on what I want you to act on rather than how can I help you be happier? How can I help you have a better experience? How can I help you enjoy our club better? And some people might say, well, we do that by, with our dining, we'll send an email with our dining specials for the week. So I'm trying to help you know what we're going to have. Well, kinda, but it's, it's interesting maybe, but it's not really that useful all the time, so I might discard it, and delete it or just not pay attention to it. So I'm just adding on, I guess, Mike, to what you're saying, which is that if as communicators, club communicators, we think of that email communication as something that we can offer to help people or provide valuable information for them rather than just, I got to get this information out, it can change the whole experience for the members.
Absolutely. So let's just go through a for instance, or make it a little bit more tactical.
Mm-hmm.
So say I'm a club member, and it's very clear that I like golf, and I am a golfer. So I first become a member. I'm opening emails. I'm clicking on, or I'm opening emails, but I'm really only clicking on, hey, here's the events that we have upcoming that are golf related. But now there's not a golf-related event for the next, call it, month or month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? My club also has tennis. They also have a pool. They also have, as you mentioned, here's the dining specials for the week. But guess what? I don't care about any of those. I want to know about what's going on in golf. But because you're sending me a weekly special, or the weekly specials with dining, you're sending me a weekly email about the tennis club, you're sending me a weekly email about, hey, here's what's going on in the pool. Then what happens is I start to just tune the brand out because every one of those emails is not relevant to me. Then what happens is you send another email about the next golf event, and guess what? My brain, I've psychologically tuned you out and I pass you by.
Mm-hmm.
And what would have been better happened is take those cues to say, okay, Mike is not interested in tennis, golf, or tennis, the pool, or the dinner specials. Let's not send him those emails, so that when I do get an email from the club, I say, oh, it's golf. I'm gonna immediately open and click on that, and therefore I stay engaged. The other component that can actually be a very bad thing is as you get more and more people disengaging, that creates actually a physical email deliverability issue, which we won't spend a lot of time on today. Yeah. But what can happen is, hey, the people that actually want to get your emails, they're actually going to land in the spam folder because your engagement rates are so low. So by simply segmenting what people are interested in and focusing on that, you can have just dramatic increases in overall engagement, and therefore you're making your club members far happier in the way that they're interacting with you.
Yeah. Let's jump into that in a second. I do want to follow up on one thing that you said with I can almost hear member services people saying this, okay, so I pissed off all my members, or I've made people frustrated because I've been sending the wrong emails. Oh my gosh. How do I fix that? Like, how do you reverse that? It's like, do you have an email that says, hey, I'm really sorry we've been spamming you with some of this stuff? Or, is that something that it's just going to take time to earn their trust back, that you've got worthwhile communication? Or how do you, what do you, is there anything from a technology perspective, I suppose, or in your experience that you'd recommend?
So tactically, I think you could do a couple things there, but yes, it's certainly going to take time to win them back. For new members, you can send them an email that says, hey, what types of emails are you interested in receiving? And then only send them those emails. Don't spam them with the tennis and the pool and those types of things. But for existing members that have kind of like just tuned the brand out, stop sending them. Go off and do a little bit of research in what they're interested in, whether through, hey, when they come into the clubhouse, most clubs do a phenomenal job of really understanding, hey, Mike really he's the golfer persona. Let's send him emails about golf. And so therefore start suppressing him from receiving other types of emails. And then all of a sudden Mike will start saying, oh, wow, okay, yeah, there's a golf event. And he'll just start to, again, psychologically, he'll start to recognize that he actually probably won't even know he's doing it, but he'll recognize that, wow, I'm just getting emails about golf.
Right. So this is great. So often, it's that idea of like opting into certain emails, opting into certain conversations that are happening at your club, and not getting the things you don't care about. So let's just talk, just really, from a tactical perspective. How do you do that? It could be an email. There could be an announcement. There could be through member communications. Acknowledging, hey, we're going to change the way we're communicating with you, our members. And what we want to do is we want to find out from you what is valuable for you. So providing people, ideally electronically, so they can opt in. And then depending on the platform that you're using, you can automatically start segmenting members into different buckets of interest, right? So you could do it manually, and you could have manual lists, because let's face it, a lot of you in the club industry are technologically challenged, and resources are really tight. And Mike, whether you've seen some of this stuff, a lot of member services people will use Excel spreadsheets to manage contact lists and things like that. You can do it manually, but the important thing is to get those people in their list, and the more automated it is, the more efficient you can be, not just in converting those people into segmented lists, but when you communicate with them, making sure that people are staying in buckets. And if they want to opt into different things, they can have those options within the emails they're already receiving. So technology that's out there that businesses are using on a regular, you see this all the time, right? This for you, Mike, this is like, yeah, this is kind of the way the world works. But for a lot of people in the club industry, this isn't something that they're used to thinking about.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, one of the questions that, even internally before we send an email, and this is what I encourage all marketers to do, whether or not you're, an expert or you're just getting started, is think about, what have I hired this email to do? If I were to receive this email, why would I engage with it?
Mm-hmm.
And back from a back to some of the tactics that you can use. I mean, most clubs, they have anywhere from, a couple hundred members to maybe 1,000. Some of the larger ones have a few thousand. Take the team into the room, into a room for an afternoon. And yeah, I get that that's hard, and start developing, hey, here's what the persona is. Golfer Mike, Pool Sally, Dining Sarah. And then what you can do is you can build lists off of those personas and just assign an initial persona to each member, and each member's, member of their family.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. And then what you can do is, again, start segmenting your content to who it's going to.
Yeah, it's, once again, we talked about this last week with blogging, which is that it starts with knowing your personas, know who you're going to talk to. And what's really cool about clubs is that we all know who these people are. It's like the people, and rather than even having some alliteration of some name like, Poolside Patty or something like that, it's like, no, that's actually Karen Johnson. She is that person. And so if you think about Karen Johnson, you're writing to her, and it just, it's going to cover a lot of members who are just like her, right? That look-alike audience in some way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mentioned Jackie Singleton at the country club and going from 40% open rates to 70. It was like 68%. I was making fun of her for being that precise, but she knows exactly what that is. And she did it they've got like 11 or 12 activities at their club, including curling and, tennis and pool and all that other stuff. And I think they have skeet shooting, but they started to segment their lists, and they did it manually, and just putting their members into different buckets and making sure that if someone wanted to receive emails on specific activities, they got them for them. And if they didn't, those members weren't receiving that communication. So super, super effective and great information there, Mike. Can we switch gears? Let's talk about outbound. And I say outbound, let me rephrase that, external use of email. So, you've probably read, I think that's been one of the most, in some ways, I feel like it's the most over-publicized thing about the club world is that private clubs are struggling, and for sure golf is in decline. And actually just a neat piece thing that actually golf in general is starting to stabilize. But anyway, so marketing tactics for a lot of clubs, some have changed, a majority have not. So word of mouth has always been super, super important for clubs. And if you're listening to this thing, yep, word of mouth is still the most important thing. And yet people will call, they'll inquire about membership, or they'll inquire about events at your club, or they might inquire about weddings and things like that. And in many cases, a lot of the people that I talk to, they don't have a way of following up. They don't have, not only they don't use a CRM, or a CRM is not in use, there's no email communication as well. And while I think that we understand, and we who are associated with private clubs get that, like we want to be high touch, we want to be, show personal service. We don't want to badger people who are inquiring. The truth is, the world has changed, and people in some ways expect that communication. They expect ongoing interaction from the organizations, businesses that they're interested in. And email is such a big part of that. And Mike, I mean, what you're doing with 7 Cents, you play in this area of interaction and engagement and finding best times. Can you add some more context to just the changes and especially for clubs who, it's interesting because you'll hear them say, we need to get younger. We have to have younger members for the future of our club. And the demographic has shifted. So this idea of like high touch, yes, but we also need technology as well. Do we not?
Absolutely. And so let's unpack a little bit more about what you said. So if I'm looking to join a club, it's going to probably be a pretty big financial investment for me.
Right.
And it's like anything in the world, I want to be educated on why I should join. Not, maybe I've made the decision to join a club and I've set aside, budget to do so, family budget to do so,
right,
et cetera. But I want to be educated on why I should join your club. And while word of mouth is still important, and those, we'll think of that as kind of like in the business to business world, that's inbound, hey, these are inbound leads. People are reaching out to us based on the word of mouth. But then there's also, hey, I just moved to the area, I'm inquiring about the clubs, I want to know, hey, this club has a pool, this club has tennis, this club has curling, whatever my interests, whatever my interests are.
Right.
And it can be, as part of that inquiry, I understand that for a club to continue to facilitate outreach, that can become incredibly expensive, especially if you're calling people, or even if you're sending them one-to-one emails. But you should really be automating that process. And the way through automation is marketing automation. Hey, this person inquired about golf. Let's send them a series of emails that talk about our golf club, the etiquette of the club, what to expect as far as, available tee times, are there any rules that, how many events do we do? How many events do we do for the members? Any
good
special
content.
events? Yes.
That will help. We would even say like meet a member, send them a bio, maybe a link to a story or a link to a video about a member, some way to help them figure out, is this the right place for me, right?
Exactly.
That's what
and
content
do the same thing with, hey, this person inquired about golf and pool, so clearly they have a family.
Right.
We're capturing that data at the beginning. So maybe I send them a series of, hey, here's what to expect from the golf club. Here's the events that we throw on, at the pool every summer. Hey, here's what, Pool Sally had to say about why she loves the pool, and do that, as you exactly mentioned, as a video. And then here's what Scott, the golfer, here's what he had to say, and do it as a video. Mm-hmm. And then what you're doing is you're facilitating that education in an automated process, which can dramatically reduce your cost of acquisition for a new member.
Right, because your alternative, and what a lot of people will do, is they may have a tickler file of some sort, but it's not automated for sure. And they may not always think to go through and say, oh, yeah, my gosh, I was supposed to follow up with, Karen Johnson's best friend.
Yes.
Unless they're really, active in the buying cycle. But several people, like guys like us, we might take 3-4 years. I mean, this courting and hemming and hawing about whether to join can take a long time. And without automation, you talk about cost of acquisition. It's like, my gosh, you're going to lose those opportunities, or you're going to spend a ton of time manually doing some of these activities.
Yeah, you're either going to lose those opportunities. Well, you're going to spend a lot of money, or you're going to lose those opportunities to the competitive club that has invested in that digital communication.
Right. So we're unpacking this whole idea of bringing in, entertaining the idea of automation and how that can help. Was there more that we wanted to go through with that? Some other things on your mind? I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought there, but I feel like I did.
No, I mean, I think, as you mentioned, start, don't try to boil the ocean from the beginning, but start, if I were a club owner or somebody that was handling, customer acquisition, and I should probably use a different term, but, start with something simple, like get a CRM in place so that you have all of this, in one centralized location.
Right.
And there are free CRMs out there.
Yeah.
And there are some really, really good free CRMs that literally cost you nothing.
Yeah, HubSpot is fantastic.
Exactly, and yeah. we utilize HubSpot internally ourselves. So start with that, and then starting to try to define what your personas are so that you can start bucketizing them. Mm-hmm.
And then that's where you start getting into, okay, well, what type of content should we be sending out? How often should we be sending it out? And again, if you don't have the time or energy to boil the ocean, that's where you come to somebody like yourself, Ed, that has the expertise and can deliver that expertise not only from a consulting perspective but also from an implementation perspective.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, you may be sitting at home or in your car or on a treadmill listening to this right now, going, "Oh my gosh." This is really sounding like work. This little email that we send out to members once a week, now I got to segment them. And now these things for, membership directors are going, well, we don't have a CRM. We got to do that. But it really is one of those things where if you want to step into, if you want to grow your membership, if you want to grow your revenue, the things that you have always done, if they haven't worked, then it's time to try something different. And there's so much great technology out there. Why wouldn't you start to implement change and move in that direction? So let's bring this a little closer to Seventh Sense, because at the top we were talking about the busy executives and all the emails that they get, and let's face it, for a lot of private clubs, that is part of their demographic that they're after. They are looking for people who lead very busy lives, that are managing multiple schedules, that have a lot going on, and probably receive a lot of emails. Can we make this a little bit? I'm just thinking about trying to make. I'm just imagining, people listening, going, "Oh my gosh, there's so much now. You're going to give me more." But really, Seventh Sense in the technology that's offered through email platforms like yours, and there aren't many like yours, they make so much sense. So can we adapt the thinking behind, the customized emails, bring it home a little bit more to a membership director who's managing, let's just say it's not huge databases, maybe 500 names, maybe 200, could be 1,000, depends on how many different types of contacts. And just for context, Mike, it could be potential members. It could be real quick turns, like wedding inquiries. We're interested in having our wedding at this private club, and that decision is going to be made really, really quickly. But that could turn into, oh my gosh, well, now we have to have the rehearsal dinner, groom's dinner, or the brunch the day after. So some of that communication looks like that. Or it could be galas. A lot of clubs host galas as well. But when you think about people who are making those inquiries and know that they're going to receive emails or not, let's talk about how we could potentially help them make sure that these busy people are seeing their emails. So just tying everything together, I guess, is what we've been talking about.
Right. So I'll give you for instance. So my sister-in-law works for a very large catering company, and she works, weddings, things along those lines. And every time we talk, and she's in sales, every time she talks, she has the same problem that we've been discussing about, which is, hey, I've got a spreadsheet, I've got a tickler file, I forget to send this person an email. The next thing you know, the next time I call them, they've already gone with a competitor. And had I sent them that email, a week before, I probably would have gotten their business because we were having a great conversation. And every time I come back to her, which is, why don't you automate this? Why don't you automate the ability to reach out to these people? Well, because my company's not willing to invest in it. And my response always is, if you would have won that last opportunity, the ROI would already be there with one opportunity. And so it's a little bit of this short-sighted component. Now, when it comes to Seventh Sense, or you're looking at, okay, well, what tools should I use for marketing automation? What's an all-encompassing solution? Again, I'm a huge proponent. I love HubSpot. I know that that's a lot of what you work within, Ed, because it is that all-encompassing solution: CRM, automation, etc. So where Seventh Sense can come in and lend some value is, again, we're going to go off and analyze all of that data from every time you send an email, and the system just can, it's all of these things that you hear on the news, AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, but we're not going to get into that. We handle all of that for you. And our system handles all of that for you, and then we automate the process of facilitating that reach, that outreach. So that's kind of really where 7Sense comes in from an automation perspective.
So you bring up a great point with the ROI, because that is one of the things that I think that membership directors, sales and marketing leaders within the club industry understand. Sometimes it's difficult to position that with either the board or with the general manager or the owner if it's privately owned. And I think that one of the things that people tend to forget is that in this digital age, it's all measurable. Like you can actually run a report that shows how effective the tactics that you've been using have been. And that's one of the most remarkable things as far as just reporting and proving out ROI in a very tangible, like, here, look at this report kind of way. I mean, what are some of the analytics that you are able to, that you have visibility into today that we didn't have, 10 years ago?
It's a great question, and the answer is it's night and day different. The ROI that you receive is incredibly measurable, and frankly, people that are not, I think a lot of membership directors, if they went to their board would say, "What do you mean we're not already doing this?"
Right.
Because you're right. I mean, we all live in this digital age, and just like the businesses that are not taking this digital approach, Amazon's going to overtake them. And in the club, in the private club space, there are clubs that are already implementing this. And there's clubs in every single locality that are already implementing these strategies.
Right.
And if you're not, your cost of sale or cost of acquisition of a new member is just going to continue to skyrocket unless you really think about, not only, I'm not saying completely automate the process, because then there's not the true human touch to it.
Right.
But at least automate some of the process. And again, with the investment that club members make, in a lot of instances, hey, you get 1-2 club members by taking this new approach, and the whole approach gets paid for by itself. You then start adding member 3, member 4, member 5, member 6, because you're doing a much better job of educating that member on why they should be a member, and the ROI of building it out just skyrockets.
Yeah, and especially you can look at things like initiation fee, downstroke, sometimes depending on what that is for a club, that alone can pay for the technology and the services, for at least that year, if not longer. But then you consider the lifetime value of a new member, which is, reaches into the hundreds of thousands based on industry average. So there's plenty of ROI that can be proven out. People are just become so used to this idea that you can't measure marketing and advertising. You just can't do it. It's just about getting the word out about it, but it's not that way anymore.
Right. And back to your point, Ed, that you made earlier, which like right now, I am not a member of a private club. But in the next few years, will be not yet. In the next few years, I will be joining a private club. And next to me is Washington Golf, Riverbend, and Argyle. Those are the 3 that I would consider.
Right. And
of all of them, again, this is going to be a 3-year, quote unquote, sales cycle for them. They need to do a better job of marketing to me so that when I'm ready to make that decision in 3 years, I'm highly educated on what each one provides.
Yeah.
And why do I want to join that one versus the other one?
Yeah, I think that is a great point, is that, and you just said 3-year sales cycle. And if people could look at some of the strategies. Not that they're not. I mean, there are a lot of visionary people in this industry, but to really lengthen the lens of that sales cycle and say, hey, you know what? This is a 3-year deal. And let's start building that relationship right now. And email can certainly be a great way, when done right, to develop that relationship. Hey, what do you think is the future? If you were to, we'll just kind of wrap up with your vision for what you think is the future of email communication, especially with so much video that's out there now and, video that's being sent through email. But what do you think is the future?
So I don't think, as many proponents of there are that, hey, email is dead. Email is actually making a huge resurgence. And if you think about all the proponents that have said email is dead, like Facebook, Slack, WhatsApp, etc., the one thing I always point to is, how do you log into those systems?
Right.
You use an email address.
Right.
Your email address is really likened to your social security card for the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going anywhere. And there are, to the nth degree, studies on millennials, and the number one way that millennials even provide or want to interact with brands is through email. Now, where do I think the future of email is going? Yes, video is absolutely a critical part of a communication strategy, but where I think email is going to go is marketing automation systems are going to get smarter and smarter about each individual's habits. But if you're not starting to generate that type of data today, then if you're going to wait 2 years or 3 years, then what you're doing is you're missing out on all of the data generated, because the CEO of HubSpot recently said, and I love the comment, data is the new oil. If you don't have data, you're going to be left behind. Yes, you can generate data today, and in a lot of instances you can't do anything with it. But if you think 3-5 years out, what we're going to be able to do with that data that we generated today, it's going to be amazing things. So, my point of view is, get started today. Don't boil the ocean. And then in the next few years, we're going to see some very interesting, technologies where you'll be able to look at, hey, I don't need to ask Scott what type of content he wants. I'm going to know because the system's going to tell me. Right. The system's going to learn and adapt to what Scott's interested in. Not only that, how often does Scott want to be communicated with? Hey, if I send Scott an email more than once a month, he's going to start getting fatigued of my content. He's going to start tuning my brand out. Whereas Pool Sally, I can send her an email every other day, and she interacts with all of them. And so the systems are going to start recognizing those patterns and automate and facilitate that outreach.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff that's coming down the pipeline. AI is a conversation, and machine learning for another day. But you're already using it. I mean, that's what's making 7th Sense work so well. So, Mike, thanks so much for spending time with us today. It's been really helpful.
Yeah, no, I love the conversation. So. It was fantastic. And again, I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, look forward to more discussions in the future. Thanks for tuning in to Crushing Club Marketing. Next week, we're going to talk about shooting drone footage at your club with Jack Knutson, co-owner of Flight Creative Media. He'll talk to us about what to look for when hiring a drone shooter, how to get the most out of your drone footage crew, and he's got tips for the amateur drone pilots hoping to get footage that you can use for your marketing.